Because you're thinking like, wait, what is this like blue liquid they're drinking? So there's a whole sequence in the movie where you have this character who basically gets a hold of like a baby sandworm, and they kind of coax this blue urine out of it. That's what they do. They coax this blue urine out of it. And only like certain people, I think it's only women can drink it. Like men, don't drink this shit. It'll kill you. It'll kill you dead, right? Only like a certain type of woman can drink this, and then you get all these like visions and powers and everything. And it's very dangerous for Jessica to drink it because she's preggers. She's like super preggers, and she drinks it, and it changes her and her outlook and everything, and she becomes more powerful. But then also it then makes her fetus, who we learn is Anya Taylor-Joy, like in Visions. They show her briefly in the movie, spoiler. It then makes the fetus self-aware and super intelligent, and is able to then telepathically communicate with Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica, right? And then they go on this, quest in the movie to spread the word of Paul Muad'Dib. But it all came from the blue urine of a sandworm that most likely will kill you. And someone else drinks it later in the movie that we'll get to that. But I think, like, okay, this is interesting. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part of my show today, and that is my spoiler review and spoiler discussion for Dune Part 2. Of course, this movie just came out this past Friday. You had a lot of people seeing it, a lot of people loving it, made a lot of money, like a little over 80 million, 82, like 0.5 million or something like that. Looks like it's going to be a nice commercial and critical success. One of the big movies of 2024 so far, if not the biggest movie of 2024 so far. And I previously did a review for the film. I walked away actually really liking it. I think it was much better than the first movie. Visually, I think it's a masterpiece, just from the cinematography to the action sequences. Just the thought put into how Frank Herbert's world operates, I thought was just great. I thought it was very well done. There were a number of characters that really stood out to me. Javier Bardem's Stilgar and Josh Brolin's Gurney. And Austin Butler as FEYD-RAUTHA Harkonnen. I thought he was the standout in the cast. Very, very impressed. I did have some complaints about the movie. I didn't feel like the dialogue was very strong in some portions. It was very serviceable, very workmanlike. I think there was a lack of chemistry between Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, and some certain other characters that I didn't find particularly all that interesting. And I think the Harkonnens themselves as villains were very disappointing. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen and Rabba Harkonnen, most of the time they just were yelling at each other and barking orders, and that was pretty much it. And I feel like there was some stuff that was brought up and then not really acted upon at all in the movie. Like, oh, that's an interesting little thing. And what are they going to do with that? Oh, nothing. Nothing. It was just like a little fun factoid, a little fun footnote that kind of went nowhere. But overall, I walked away actually really liking the movie. I do think it's one of the best movies of 2024 so far. Not exactly hard to do, but most certainly that is the case. And it obviously makes a lot of people excited for the future of this franchise and what they're possibly going to be doing with it. We know that there is going to be a Dune Part 3 or a Dune Messiah. It's going to be an adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah. At least that's the movie that Denis Villeneuve wants to make it at some point, probably in the next couple of years, probably in the back half of the 2020s. And then you have that good old Ben and Jerry's TV show they're making, the Bene Gesserit spinoff, though I'm sure there will be many other Dune adaptations happening now. I'm sure there's going to be more cinematic sequels after Dune Messiah, whether or not Denis Villeneuve is involved. I'm sure there will be, and probably other spinoff shows. But, again, we're still in the early days of this budding film franchise. But as I said, I ended up really liking the movie. And I wanted to cover some just major plot elements in the film itself. And I think like one of the big moments of the movie was, the character of Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson, and she becomes a reverend mother in the movie. She ends up drinking some worm pee, some blue worm pee. And that just messes her up. She gets high as hell, makes her unborn baby, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, high as hell. They're able to communicate with each other now, which is very weird and very creepy. And they decide, like, well, we're going to go ahead and start spreading the word of Paul Atreides, Muad'Dib, the Kwanzaa Cataract. This guy's got 5 different names in the movie, Chad. I like to call him good old Paul Muad'Dib, all right? He was Muad'Dib to me throughout this film. And they start spreading his story throughout, Arrakis, throughout Dune, to the many Fremen people who may or may, who may not believe that the Messiah truly has come. And Paul doesn't want that, because he's like, just stop fucking talking. All right, stop spreading this story at this point. I don't want to embrace this supposed destiny of mine to become this Messiah. I just want vengeance. I want revenge against the Harkonnens and the Emperor for what they did. I'm in love with Chani. Just don't do it. But that's like a big part of the movie I didn't particularly like. Get into much details about. I didn't really particularly care for, the Lady Jessica character, all that much. And, I think there's just still so much unknown about her and the whole, the baby of it all. Like, you know what it reminded me of? Her little weird space baby. It reminded me of Look Who's Talking Now. You ever seen that movie, chat? With John Travolta? where you have the I think it's like in the third, I think it's in the second or third movie, or it's in one of the movies where you have the baby is voiced by Roseanne Barr. And you literally go inside of what's her name's belly, and you see the fetus just like, what the hell's this? What's going on in here? It's like the umbilical cord's like tied around the baby. And I'm just like, it's just the scene from Look Who's Talking Now too. This is like Kirstie Alley. I was like, I thought they did it much better. with Kirstie Alley. And Look Who's Talking Now too than they did in this movie. That was just me. And I want to see how that plays out, and how Anya Taylor-Joy is going to grow up to be this little fucking demon child who spreads the word of Muad'Dib. But I am curious, like, what did you guys think of the blue worm piss? People drinking that blue worm piss. The Look Who's Talking Now sequence in the film, the multiple sequences in the film. And obviously just the story of Paul Muad'Dib being spread to the Fremen. They even say, like, some of these Fremen are stupid. They even come out and say, like, some of these Fremen are dumb. And so it'll be pretty easy to convince some of them to, like, join you in your forces to fight against the Empire and the Harkonnens and everything else, and that you are indeed the Messiah. But, I don't know. Let me see what you guys are saying. I thought the blue milk was bad. I think it was bad. I'm like, I don't think this makes you like, it gives you visions. I think it makes you fucking nuts. I think that's what it really does. Naya Brownie, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. I hope you're doing very well. We should watch all of the Look Who's Talking Now films. Because you got like the first movie, then you got the second of Roseanne Barr, and then the third film introduces the pets. And you got the third movie. I think the third movie like introduces like Dan DeVito as a dog or something. Oh, let's see here. Hey, sorry, I love that Denis Villeneuve made this choice because it could have failed so hard and had been ridiculous. But I loved hearing Alia and Jessica's internal dialogue. Right. Yeah, the third one, the dogs were talking. You think it tastes like blue raspberry? It would have to be, because some people are like, give me that blue worm piss. They were really excited about it. If I was to drink it, it better taste like blue raspberry. No question. What made me laugh was that if you go see the movie, more likely than not, if you're going to get a trailer for Furiosa, which is about Anya going to rampage through the desert, and then surprise, she pops up for a brief moment in the movie, and you're watching about rampage in the space. Look at that. She's like, I'm gonna get in on it early in a whole different franchise. Jim Murray, if I ask questions in regard to that, I'll be here all night. I know. Well, what it is, so far as I understand, because you're thinking like, wait, what is this like blue liquid they're drinking? So there's a whole sequence in the movie where you have this character who basically gets a hold of like a baby sandworm, and they kind of coax this blue urine out of it. That's what they do. They coax this blue urine out of it, And only like certain people, I think it's only women can drink it. Like men don't drink this shit. It'll kill you. It'll kill you dead. Right? Only like a certain type of woman can drink this, and then you get all these like visions and powers and everything. And it's very dangerous for Jessica to drink it because she's preggers. She's like super preggers, and she drinks it, and it changes her and her outlook and everything, and she becomes more powerful. But then also it then makes her fetus, who we learn is Anya Taylor-Joy, like in Visions. They show her briefly in the movie, spoiler. It then makes the fetus self-aware and super intelligent and is able to then telepathically communicate with Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica, right? And then they go on this, quest in the movie to spread the word of Paul Muad'Dib. But it all came from the urine, the blue urine of a sandworm that most likely will kill you. And someone else drinks it later in the movie that we'll get to that. But I think, okay, this is interesting. That's So Raven. It's funny enough, it felt like a sequence from That's So Raven when she's like, oh, and then she starts speaking baby Anya Taylor-Joy fetus. And I'm just like, wow. Oh, Christ. It was just like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, Lord. There's a drug that turns you piss blue, but I can't remember what it is right now. They got to give it like a nickname. It's the Arrakis Spice Nye. That's what it is. It's that Dune worm piss. I was pissed, that they showed Anya Taylor-Joy at the Mirror article saying Anya Taylor-Joy to play mystery role, which was a total spoiler. As soon as they announced her that she was in the movie, I instantly knew what she was going to play. I instantly knew she was going to be that little demon girl, just because Anya Taylor-Joy, I think she's a very talented actress, and she's very beautiful, but she looks weird in a good way. She looks weird in a good way. She's got like those enormous eyes. She looks like a living, breathing anime character come to life, chat. Like her eyes occupy 2/3 of her face, and she can see in front of herself and behind herself constantly, like 360 degrees, which is a very useful skill. It's a very useful skill. And, she has a very particular look. And so as soon as her name popped, it's like, I know exactly who she's playing. And so I guess it was a spoiler, but I'm just like, well, who else are you going to cast her? Like, you're going to cast her as one of the Fremen. You're going to cast her as a Harkonnen or something? Like, no, she got to play that weird alien fetus baby in the movie. And lo and behold, she was the weird alien fetus baby. I was like, yeah, that was good casting. I would have done the same thing. I would have done the exact same thing. Let's see here. The blue wicked bile of the sandworm, when you drown the sand trout, baby sandworm, you can drain the bile, which is super concentrated spice. Hell yeah. I like to call it worm piss. But yeah, there you go. Paul was trained by his mom that controls bite to filter the poison. Chris, I'm impressed they kept her secret for those that long, though. I'm so used to casting news leaking a year before the movie's out, and then it's supposed to be a big surprise. You're like, yeah, I know. Every site has already spoiled that for me. Yeah. I get you. Let's see here. When they drink the water of life, that's what it's called, the water of life. It allows them to tap in the memories of all their... the female answers. That's right. So he's able to see... Yeah, and Paul later drinks it, but we'll get to that in a second. Well, there's a reason why. What's his name? Hawat, that Thurfer Hawat guy. He had scenes in the movie that they cut. They apparently cut his scenes. And Denis Villeneuve, I was reading about that today. He felt bad about that. The more I learn about the plot of Dune, the more I feel like it's just a bad drug trip. They get high. Oh, they do get high. It is kind of like, it's weird and out there. There's no question. I wanted the baby to be voiced by James Hahn as Lopan. That would have been amazing. I would have loved that. You're not supposed to get it, Paul Muad'Dib. Just go with it. Blissy. It's that blue piss. We're going to call it Blissy. Did not see that coming. Might have to see it sooner now. You got to see it. Ace Rock, the Bene Gesserit, through their prana bindu neuromuscular control, can transmute the poison into spice liquor, safe to drink by the Fremen. Nice. She has human anime eyes, yeah. Oh. And also, I buy her as a member of the Atreides family because every member of the result of genetic purity. No, she's a great casting choice. She is. No, I'm joking, but she'd be a good demon child. Put Anya Taylor-Joy and Bill Skarsgård's weird eye in a staring contest. It would go on forever. They wouldn't end. Oh, Lord. Oh, yeah, Tim Blake Nelson was in the movie, and they got cut, too. All of his scenes. She has a field vision of an owl. You're killing me, Chad. I've not seen any Dune movies or read the book, so this is just you going off like the crazy homeless man at the bus stop you avoid. Straight up. That's what it sounds like. You don't understand. He's the Muad'Dib. He is the future. He's the Messiah. He's the Kwanzaa cataract. He will free us. He will commit the holy war. He drank the blue worm piss, and he could see the future, but also the present and the past all at the same time. He's going to lead us to victory. He's the Messiah. Oh, Christ. But there you go. Tim Blake Nelson was cast to play Count Casimir Fennerig, these names, who is the husband of Lady Margot Fennerig. Apparently, the scene was cut to. There you go. There you go. My Lord. So, yeah. But then eventually, because the thing is within the movie itself, so, Lady Jessica's spreading all these lies basically about Paul, and Paul's not happy about this because Paul doesn't want to become the Messiah. He doesn't. He's just like, that's not what I want to do. I want to hang out with Zendaya, okay? I want vengeance against the Emperor and the Harkonnens, right? But I don't want power in that way, right? But you have Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem, and, like, Gurney, played by Josh Brolin, who keep pushing him to do these things. Like, Stilgar is like, he's probably, other than Fade in the movie, played by Austin Butler, he's probably my favorite character just because he's funny. He has, like, the biggest personality out of anybody. I wish a lot of the other characters had a bit of personality. It's so funny because now you're seeing, like, all these memes and all these gifs from Dune, but they're all about Stilgar. Like, no one else is getting mean because he is, like, just he's the most fun character in the film. And it's interesting because, yes, he's naturally comedic and, like, really personable and likable, but he's also crazy and he's a religious zealot. And so he's trying to, like, train Paul to do all these different things in the movie, right? But he's also like, he's the Messiah. And Paul's always telling him, like, I'm not the Messiah. I don't want to be the Messiah, okay? That's not who I want to be. And then he goes off like, oh, he's so humble. That's like, of course, that's what the Messiah would say. And I'm like, that's pretty funny. I like that. And Gurney's just like, hey, Paul, you being the Messiah or not, I don't give a shit. We're going to fucking kill the Harkonnens. We're going to kill the Emperor. I found this stockpile of nuclear weapons, and we should definitely use them on them. We should definitely use this stockpile of nuclear weapons and just wipe them all out. So that's like his whole thing. So he's got these. He's got one who's a religious zealot and one who's a warmonger, who are constantly telling him he should, whether he's the Messiah or not, should embrace this destiny to then wipe out the Empire or take over the Empire and to wipe out House Harkonnen Harkonnen, and to bring all the other houses to heel under his boot. Like, that's what they're telling him. But then you have Chani who loves him, but played by Zendaya, but doesn't believe in the prophecy. And wants to find, like, another way forward with Paul that doesn't involve him, becoming this would-be Messiah or taking advantage of it and taking over the Fremen. And there's actually, like, I should have brought this up in my review. Like, I didn't, like, get a sense of, like, a lot of romantic chemistry between them, but there was a good scene where at one point, because, Zendaya believes, like, well, he's not even, like, a true Fremen or anything like that. And Paul's like, wait a minute. I thought I was Fremen because he did all these things, went through the rite of passages. And she even had to, like, catch herself at one point, which I thought was pretty cool. She's like, well, no, you are Fremen, but you weren't born a Fremen. And I thought that was interesting. I really liked that sequence between them and kind of showed this weird, inciting moment in the relationship where she's like, you are Fremen, but you're not. And it's just like, oh, wow. It's like that. I thought that was pretty interesting. I dug that. But inevitably, because the situation that being with, especially with the Harkonnens and when FEYD-RAUTHA comes into, I want to talk about them, or especially Fade, because he's like my favorite character in the film. He's excellent in the movie. He's like, fuck it. The only way to move forward and to save the Fremen and in his Paul's mind to make the right choices is to drink the blue worm piss so then he could so his visions in his mind would make more sense and he knows the path forward and not constantly second guessing himself and thinking he's gonna make the wrong decision. So he drinks it, pretty much dies, quote unquote, dies and then rises again like a certain other messianic figure. And he's like, okay, now I know what I need to do. But in doing so, he pretty much abandons like what his life would be like with Chani. It's like, he's like, now I'm going to be the Messiah. I'm going to be the Emperor. I'm going to be a conqueror, right? And then he moves forward in the movie. But I did like the back and forth with, like, you have the skeptics and you had the people that were like zealots, and then you had just other people that were more warmongers. I thought that was cool in the movie. I like that. And that constantly that's, Paul dealing with, that on either side. Get from 3 different directions, basically. But he inevitably chooses to become the Messiah and this warmonger. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Oh, Stilgar is such a simple. He's like, yes, like every scene. It's very, very funny. I love Stilgar in this version. He's a fanboy over Paul, and it's fun. I like it quite a bit, even though what he's doing is very disturbing. Stilgar has his motivation. He knows that Paul can help turn Arrakis into a tropical paradise. Yeah. I bought into during the scene when she's teaching him to set up the tent. I saw sparks there. Says Chris. I like that there was that boyish awkwardness of Paul, and he gets a crush on Chani. It needs more That's So Raven music. It definitely does. I'll put in that scene of Raven going, oh, having a vision of the future. And then you even need to have Timmy do the crucifix pose to get that algorithm. They did not. They did. Thank God. Because if like someone like Zack Snyder directed this, oh my God, Paul would always be doing this. He'd be like this the whole time. It'd be so obnoxious. I loved how they have the northern versus southern Fremen. Yeah. Let's see, Jamar, you see later. This really pisses me off to no end. Anna Joy, voiced by James Lawrence Lopin. That'd be hilarious. That's not in the books too. There's no real opposite. No, I know. Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, so they significantly changed Chani in the movie. In the book, and it has been quite some time since I've read the book. So correct me if I'm wrong. Chani's kind of barely a character. Honestly, like, she kind of sucks in the book. I just don't think Frank Herbert really wrote many women very well. So here they made like the major change to be like, no. She is actually one of the few skeptics of the prophecy and of Paul. Like she's kind of caught in the middle. She's like, I love this guy, but I don't believe he's this thing. And he keeps telling me I'm not this thing. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I thought that was that was cool. I like that. But then you have like on the opposite side, you have Stilgar who believes in the Messiah, and then you have Gurney who's like, I don't give a fuck what you are. We need to destroy we need to take over the Empire, and we need to wipe out the Harkonnens. And so, like I said, he's getting it from 3 different directions, and that's interesting to me. And I did like that aspect. I thought that was pretty cool. Oh yeah, we're full of spoilers. We're full of spoilers right now. Full of spoilers, and that's what happens. So obviously, we kind of get to, excuse me, before even getting to the movie, I did want to obviously get into talking about FEYD-RAUTHA and the Harkonnens, and also just the film's villain problem, in my opinion. Now, listen, FEYD-RAUTHA, played by Austin Butler, is great. He is so good in this movie. He's like I guess he's technically the younger brother of Batista's character, of Rabba. And obviously, he's the nephew of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Where it's funny, even though he has such a presence in the movie in terms of just like, wow, he just really pops when he's on screen because of just he has such a big personality. He doesn't come until like the first hour. Like honestly, he doesn't come until I think like the 60-minute mark or something. It takes a while to get to him, right? Because most of the time in the first hour, first third of the movie, we're with the Fremen for most of it. For a good long while. And then we go to Getty Prime, which is really cool. So as I described in my initial review, Getty Prime, which is this very industrialized world, heavily polluted, it has this black sun. And so everything is like, anytime the sun comes out, it's like everything's monochromatic, everything's black and white. And we have this really cool scene where FEYD is fighting in this gladiatorial competition, but it's kind of rigged. And so like all of the combatants that he fights are like drugged and stuff. And it's usually to put on a show for the Harkonnen subjects to say like, hey, aren't the Harkonnens great? We're so powerful. But what inevitably happens, which is pretty cool, like as he's killing all these people and showing, how savage he is, like a member of the Atreides house sneaks in and tries to assassinate him during the gladiatorial conflict. And like Baron Vladimir Harkonnen and the Harkonnens, like they want to actually set this up so, like to test FEYD to see if he's like basically ready. And so he goes in there. And and he has to fight him. He never really defeats the Atreides, person who snuck in, and he's like pissed because he's like, well, I don't want to die. And then he eventually goes to confront Baron Harkonnen, who is like, bah. And it's like, I'll give you Arrakis. Rabba's fucking up. And Rabba has been absolutely fucking up because he's only yelling at people and killing all of his other, soldiers. And that's all he does. All Dave Bautista, like, if this was like Dave Bautista's first movie he ever did, I thought Dave Bautista would be like a terrible actor because he's pretty terrible in this movie, which is sad. because all he does is yell. And you know, I give Arrakis to you, my nephew, bring under heel, and then he kind of does that, and that sets up like the next 2/3 of the movie. And the thing is, like, I honestly wish he was in a movie. He has some really good scenes, but he needs to be in the film more, because obviously, inevitably, he has his final duel with Paul, which I want to get to towards the end of the film, and he dies. He loses the duel with Paul Muad'Dib, because. And the reason why I'm like he needs to be in the movie more, in my opinion, is because the other villains they just suck. As cool as Rabba and Baron Vladimir Harkonnen look, they don't do anything really. They're just kind of there. They just kind of like their dialogue is very. I mean, it's either serviceable or just bad, and it just sets up like, all right, like this will get us to point A to point B to point C, and that's really it. And I found that very disappointing with them. And that's too bad, because with like Dave Bautista, who's like kind of now, like he's, you know, picking like the project that he's picking, seems to be like, he wants to go for that Oscar. I think he has his eyes set on that. I want to find challenging roles, and I think he has done that. Whether or not like all the movies he's done are fantastic, like even looking at a film which I thought was kind of okay was Knock at the Cabin, the M. Night Shyamalan movie that came out earlier last year. He's really good in that movie, and he plays a very different type of character, and I thought it was a challenging role for him, and I thought he did a great job. And even stuff that he previously did with Denis Villeneuve in Blade Runner 2049, that small but like really impactful opening, I thought he was great, and he stood just right, head and shoulders right next to Ryan Gosling in that sequence. And obviously, all of his stuff that he did in Guardians of the Galaxy, he's been good, but here it's just like, he gets nothing to do instead of going, I'll go, and just that's it. I'm just like, God, this sucks. And Stellan Skarsgård, who of course is an amazing actor and like looks great in the makeup and the suit and all that, and it's like, wow, this is really cool, especially when we're on that monochromatic Getty Prime world and how he looks that way. And he has like this medical device that's attached to him because of the poisoning from the previous movie. They don't do anything with him either. They actually set something up with him that to me is really interesting. So we learn that after Paul drinks the worm piss, the water of life, as it's called, he inherits all the memories of the past, present, future, etc. And he learns that on his mother's side that his grandfather is actually Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. I was like, oh, that's cool. What are we going to do with that? It's like, okay, well, now that he realizes, like, oh, he's not just an Atreides, he's a Harkonnen too. I was like, oh, okay. And this is going to play like a big role. And then we get to the end of the movie, and he after they get into like the big this kind of manufactured like temple base that the Emperor and the Harkonnens are at, he just kind of walks in there and he says, "Grandfather," and he just stabs him, and then that's it. He just says like, and he dies. And it was like, are we not gonna, I don't know, have like a conversation or something interesting or kind of nothing. And that's what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about like we needed more, you know, and I think that could have helped flesh out the Harkonnens to a degree for for Paul to realize like, oh, this is, you know, I'm also this. And to have some sort, even before, I mean, he kills him, that's fine. But to have something between them, like this is literally the first time these characters have ever met each other, and I would have wanted that. That would have added so much to this film. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to, I think there is a lack of characterization, there's a lack of depth, and the dialogue underserves some scenes, and that was an example, and that bothered me. Yeah, and so I love having Feyd in there. He's not nearly in it as much as he needs to because he's so cool. And then lastly, you have the Emperor played by Christopher Walken, Emperor Shaddam IV, Paul Muad'Dib. And then you have Princess Arulin played by Florence Pugh. And they get a few scenes, but like not enough where they really stand out to me at all. Like we do get kind of one interesting sequence where Christopher Walken has to literally like bow before Paul Muad'Dib. He has to kneel before Paul Muad'Dib. And Paul's like, he slams on the fucking ground, like fucking kneel in front of me. And he has to do so. He has to kiss his signet ring. He's like, okay, I'll kiss him. And everything, but just not enough. I was like you get these two amazing actors walking in Florence Pugh, and it's just like, why are we just not using them? At that point, cast people who, in my opinion, if you're not going to like use these really amazing actors, in case of Walken, who's been around for decades, or Florence Pugh, who's been a rising star for the past 10 or so years, then maybe get some relatively unknown people to play these roles that kind of, be like, hey, all right, so we're not going to do much with them. Because they feel underutilized, and that to me is really, really frustrating. But yeah, what do you guys think of the villains? What do you think of FEYD and the Harkonnens and Emperor Shaddam and Princess Arula? Here's what you guys are saying. FEYD is Rabba's cousin. That's what it is. Thank you. Let's see here. I love when he beats the shit out of Batista and then he tells him, kiss my foot. Kiss it. FEYD, Rabba Harkonnen is not Baron, the heir of the Baron, Vladimir Harkonnen. Gotcha. Oh, yeah, the ink blot fireworks were awesome. I just loved the look of Getty Prime was just so cool. I was just like, this is awesome. This whole world. And then we cut out, and then we're outside, and we see all that stuff going up, and we go inside, and like how we hear it on the outside, but it's so quiet, and it's like, but we see the flashes and everything. Really awesome. I also appreciate them keeping the incest vibe between FEYD and the Baron. I mean, for a movie with that kiss, and Austin Butler just confirmed in an interview that him and the Scars could improvise that. Nice. Very cool. Black Hole Sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? The guy he fights is Roger Ewan as Lieutenant Lanville, and he was the fight in the stunt choreography for both films. Nice. Scene where Batista sees Paul Mudim, does Cloud, freaks out, and turns and runs. One of the favorite moments, says Ace Rock. Yeah, I just kind of thought Robin was lame, to be honest. I also think that Dune needed to be 3 parts. They cut and drop so many plot lines. Characters are undeveloped or barely used. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Fuck you, Graham. That's what he says. He literally says, like, you even added more to it. Now, if he said that, Deadpool would be like, okay. He just says, grandfather, and just stabs him. But he said, fuck you, Grandpa. God, like, yeah. It just felt so just, I don't know. It just was like, oh, okay. It didn't have impact. And he's like, and he dies. Baron Harkonnen might Baron Harkonnen might show up in Children of Dune movie if WB makes Children of Dune. Oh, okay. I've had this spice up my ass for 15 years, Paul Muad'Dib. Christopher Walken was perhaps my biggest disappointment. I really did not like him as Shaddam. Shaddam should have been played by someone younger and more robust. Yeah, they definitely played him as a guy who was, very, very old. He's hunched over and things, just because that's naturally what Christopher Walken looks like now, sadly. But I got the sense like he was like this formula that's this mask. They've always referenced like, I manipulated you. Your father was weak. He was a weak man. But I don't know. Yeah, I didn't get I liked him fine, but there wasn't enough of him in the movie. That's my problem. I couldn't get a sense of him. Someone I was happy to see was Shulia Yakuba's Chinese friend. I liked her. She was also talking shit. Let's see here. They also never really explained why the Emperor betrayed the Atreides. I think, yeah, it's true. It was just more like, they just, I guess it's a throwaway line in the first movie where Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, excuse me. I keep wanting to say Harkonnen. Sounds cooler, chat. He's like, the Emperor's a jealous man. And I guess it's because all the other houses like really look up to the Atreides, and I guess Shaddam's just jealous. I guess that's what it is. And it's like, yeah, okay. They also I enjoyed Batista's Robin. Yeah. Wish they gave Baron Harkonnen a little more time to realize the import of what he means when he says grandfather. Yeah, they just don't. I thought they were. It's, you know what? This is what I would compare it to. This is why I'm disappointed. I was very disappointed by Paul and Baron Harkonnen's interaction. It's as if you had, so Luke finds out that Darth Vader is his father, which, of course, the Empire Strikes Back is like, no, I'm your father. No. And it's like, okay. And then Return of the Jedi, it's like, what if then Luke walked up to Darth Vader when he finds him, when they find him on the forest moon of Endor, and they bring him to Darth Vader, and Luke went, father, and just stabbed him with his lightsaber. It's like, that's the equivalent of that. Like, that's what that would be. It'd be like, well, that's lame. I thought there'd be like a cool confrontation or like a conversation. It's like, Star Wars did that better. Star Wars has much better villains than Dune because they at least took the time to expand on them in multiple films. and deepen the relationships and the complex relationships. And when they had a reveal, it meant something. Here, the reveals don't really mean anything. And that's what I'm talking about. Like that's some of my criticism. Like I really like this movie, but I do think it has issues. And the villains are kind of at the forefront of that. Now, if someone was going to argue, and we'll get to in a bit, like, well, Paul's technically the villain of the movie, or he's going to be the villain of this franchise. I'm like, that's fair. But at the same time, just like, well, at least do something interesting with the villains that you have. Other than Fade, who is, of course, great, in my opinion. Let's see here. Robin and Fade are brothers who killed their parents. The Baron adopted them after that. Gotcha. Yeah, it's like a reverse. It's a reverse Luke, I'm your father scene. And it's just like, Yeah, I was like, I didn't, yeah. I do agree on Bautista not getting a lot of meat now that we know what range he has. It feels like underusing it. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like at that point, just like get a different actor for it, someone that we don't know, because now we know the kind of actor that Bautista is, and he's very good. He's great, and I'm just like, this feels like a role that he would have taken as soon as he got out of the WWE. To be honest, like this is like his first role, you know. Yeah, I really had issues with Rama. Let's see here. The reason Saddam set up Atreides is because he has become aware that Leto, through Gurnhalic and Duncan Idaho, has built an army that is nearly equals to his Saduka. In the book, Duke Leto figured out the secret of the Emperor's elite shock troopers. The Saduka is forming his own elite force and would surpass. Gotcha. So yeah, then they just didn't really have that in this movie. That's not really there. I love the look of Giddy Prime, but the villains, like most of the heroes, underwhelming. Yeah, which we can't blame on the actors. No, I don't blame the actors. I don't blame the actors. I don't. I think you have a very good cast here. You have a cast of amazing actors. There's no question about that. I just don't think the writing does not serve them well in a lot of cases. The writing and the dialogue is not the forefront. And again, it's so funny because Denis Villeneuve recently has walked back his dialogue comments. I think it was either today or yesterday or something. I was reading them. I was like, yeah. And it's too bad because I just wish, half the effort that was put into some of these amazing set pieces and action sequences and the special effects. And believe me, chat, the production design, it's gorgeous. Like I've not once criticized any of the action scenes. I have not once criticized the spectacle of this movie because it's fantastic. But if at least half the effort that was put into some of the writing and the dialogue between these characters and relationships, then I would feel confident. Like, yeah, this is a masterpiece. Like some people are saying, like I don't think it is because these things are weak in my opinion. And it's now I can like really get into explain as to why. And I'm just like, God damn it! Like if you could have just added some more here, or maybe not as many of these big spectacle sequences, because there's a lot. It goes like we go to one spectacle from the we have a little conversation, then we get the next spectacle scene, and I was just like, well, maybe we could have kind of we could have had someone to come in here and punch up that script and had some of these interactions that felt like super meaningful. And I don't think they do that. Let's see here. But yeah, the Giddy Prime script. Slowly turns and gives Denis Villeneuve the 1,000-yard stare. Yeah, Baron does come back into play in one of the later books. I wonder if they'll bring him in for part 3. Interesting, because they do clone and shit, right? Because I only read the first Dune. That's all I know. But I do know they bring a lot of characters back through cloning process. I'm like, okay. Batista's work. I know he has. I know. He did a great job in Blade Runner 2049. Like his small scene is in the beginning of Blade Runner 2049 is way better than any scene he has in Dune Part 1 or Part 2. Honestly, Denny's Grand Slam comment and dialogue makes sense after watching Dune Part 2. The story and characters are clearly on them. They are. They really are. Dialogue didn't bug me. Some of my favorite movies are ones where you can't recite dialogue from memory. My favorite movie last year was -1. Outside one line from the ending and people screaming Godzilla. I couldn't really quote. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's like with that one, I think there's also because the fact that it's in a different language, and so you're like reading it, like subtitles. But I would say that the characters in Godzilla -1 have far more depth, and I cared more for them and their circumstances more than any of the characters in Dune. And despite it being in a language I couldn't understand, I could still read it, and I still felt that. And they had these scenes where they like, and I point to this in my review. Like you have the the family in Godzilla -1. You have the I forget the characters' names, but you have the lead, the former kamikaze pilot, and he finds that woman and they raise that child. Like, I got a sense of their relationship and the love between the three of them that came across in their interactions with each other throughout that movie. And so when bad things did happen to them, I was like, shit, no, like, then I felt bad. Whereas like in this one, I'm like, okay, I guess we're setting something up here, and then inevitably they don't do anything with it. Like the what I thought was going to be like an emotional moment, especially between like Paul and the Baron. I thought like, okay, here we go. This is gonna be interesting. And they don't do anything with it. And I don't know. I would have liked something like that. I mean, maybe it's like that's not how it happens in the books. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Denis Villeneuve made all these changes now for the movie, so change that. Make that more impactful. But that wasn't his priority. He comes back as a ghost. Oh, does he? He's a ghost? Oh, no. Well, he knows how to float pretty well, so. Oh, that's funny. Nah, not a rant. I agree in the extent that Godzilla -1 is a much more intimate story, whereas Dune is much more. Yeah. I mean, Godzilla, despite it being a blockbuster, it's a very personal story. Like, we get to know this community, and so when one of them dies or almost dies or bad things happen to them, like, I'm like, fuck. Like, I care. Like, when Godzilla's stomping around, it's like, God, don't stomp around, Godzilla, because I like these people, Whereas some of these characters, I'm like, I guess that person's dead, So yeah. And so now I can really get into it. But then we get to the end of the film, which I've already kind of been hinting at. The everything with the Messiah, and then the Holy War that happens. Like, Paul, in spectacular fashion, Paul leads the attack against the Emperor and the Harkonnen forces at their kind of makeshift giant temple base, right? We then have, obviously, the Emperor's pissed off at the Harkonnens and everything that they've been doing. And, it's fucking, I love it when he cut the medical tubes from Baron Harkonnen. He's like, and he falls over. He's like, fuck. He's like a turtle on its back. He's like, I love it. He was trying to crawl up to that's what he always wanted. He wanted to be emperor. He wants power. And he's like trying to waddle his fat ass up the steps to sit on the throne, but he can't do it. And then, Paul comes in and he kills, his grandfather, and he kills him. And then you have the thing where Paul then moves everybody because, the Fremen forces are victorious. They use the sandworm. You've seen the trailers. They use the sandworms. They wipe out the Sardaukar, whatever you call them, the Emperor's forces and the Harkonnen forces. Then you have the end where, FEYD basically challenges Paul to a duel. And very well done, by the way. The duel, there's no music, which I thought, well, like, that was an interesting choice, but it worked, and it's like very tense. And they're both extraordinarily skilled using the knife play and everything. I love the choreography for that scene. The color palette is beautiful. Like, the framing is great. It's not like a lot of like quick cuts and shit. It's like, oh shit, the two of them like really trained for this, and it looks. I mean, if there are stunt doubles, great. But if not, wow, very impressive. Very, very well done, that fight sequence. FEYD is never really killed. I love that they had like a moment of respect where FEYD's like, man, you are good. He's like, I think he even says, what does he say? Like, Paul Atreides. He's like, before he dies, he's like, wow, you are all you crack out to be. And then and he dies. I was like, I like that. That's the thing about like FEYD. Like, he's a monster. He's a psychopath, but he does have like a begrudging respect for like Paul and the Fremen and what they have accomplished. He's like, okay. Like, he's not like Rabba, where Rabba's like, we must kill them. He's like, yeah, we're going to kill them, but I got to say, they're good. They're pretty fucking good. I mean, everyone, like, when Paul kills the Baron and FEYD's like looking, he's like, damn, okay. He's like, all right, not bad. Like, I like that. That's why I'm just like, God damn it, can we... I know he's supposed to die there, but I really wish we just had more scenes with him because he's really that good. Like, I think I would not be surprised because people are like throwing this going to be nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, etc. And I don't know, like, really the only two performances I could possibly see being nominated for like any acting categories is honestly Stilgar, Javier Bardem. But I think honestly I would probably pick Austin Butler for FEYD. I just really liked him in the movie, and he was good. Is that what he says? You fought well, Atreides? Yeah, he says you fought well, Atreides, and he dies. Nice. And then after that, we get the scene where Paul basically says, all right, I'm taking over. I'm going to marry Princess Aruan. I'm going to carry the bloodline, and you're going to bow to me, Christopher Walken. And Walken's like, I don't bow. And he's like, you're going to, I like that he slammed his fucking foot down. Like, you're going to fucking bow, or excuse me, kneel, and you're going to kiss my signet ring. And he's like, I'll kiss this. And he does that. And Chani's pissed. Everyone's like, yeah, Paul rocks. Everyone loves Muad'Dib. Everyone loves, his 15 different names that he has. Chani's like, fuck this bullshit. And she leaves. She summons a sandworm. And then you have Paul with his mother. And they're preparing the Atreides forces, the Fremen forces, and everything else, because you have all the other houses are like, yeah, fuck this bullshit. Yeah, we don't recognize you as the new emperor. We don't recognize this zealotry, this religion. Absolutely not. And so basically, Paul has declared war on the various houses of the universe. And I think, what's his line? Like, let's send them to paradise or something. It's like, that's not good. And that's what's setting up Dune Messiah. Where they're going to have an intergalactic war, which will be interesting to see. And Paul, Paul's the villain. Paul, he as I think people would say he chooses the dark side. He goes down that dark path because he believes is the right path, but inevitably it's going to probably result in the deaths of millions, if not billions, of people. Right. Because he's abusing this religious fervor. Because that's what Dune is technically about. That's the main theme. It's not the hero's journey. It's a warning on religion and messianic figures, and how we shouldn't put all of our belief in a single individual like that, because there could be horrific repercussions, such as a holy war that could decimate an entire universe and kill billions of people. And so that's what's inevitably being set up, which I think is cool. Which I think is that's cool. I like that, and I'm looking forward to the third film, despite my criticisms. And now they have no excuse. So here's the thing. Okay, it's like, okay, you've gotten rid of the Harkonnens at this point. That the house is dead, as far as I know. Although who knows? I guess in the books they come back to some degree. Okay, but now Paul's going to have that turn. He's now going to be, people would say he's the Darth Vader, at this point. Because everyone's going to say, but Star Wars came after Dune. I'm like, I understand that. I'm just trying to make a comparison. But now he's going to have that turn, and now he's going to be the villain. So now there's no excuse. Like, you have to really have him be a really interesting and compelling villain at this point, which I'm hoping that's what they do. So that's interesting. Yeah, the funny thing is, other people say, like, this was a nice conclusion. And it's like they wrap up, that's the thing. They wrap up a lot of plot lines. I don't think they really do wrap up a lot of plot lines. They wrap up some things. They wrap up the whole Harkonnen plot line. Like, that's done. We killed the whole family. And the Emperor has now kneeled to Paul and stuff, but then a lot is up in the air. Like Paul and Chani's relationship, this new holy war, how Paul is going to function as both the emperor and a messianic religious figure. Like, there's a lot of big things now up in the up in the air. Like, how are they going to execute these things? And so I'm interested to see what they're going to do. Denis Villeneuve himself has said, like, I have one more Dune movie left in me. And I'm like, okay. So we'll see how it's all executed and all wraps up. I imagine. Listen, I know there's other Dune books written by Frank Herbert and then written by other people, I think his son and some other sci-fi authors, I believe. And so who knows if they're going to continue to make this franchise and do adaptations. You get Children of Dune, you got fucking, the Dune Emperor God or whatever. So there's a lot on their plate right now. It'll be interesting. But how did you guys feel about the ending? Because I think there was a lot of cool stuff in the ending, a lot of stuff that did work for me, but a lot of stuff is still kind of out there at the moment. Let's see here. What we got? I love that Paul gets Fade the same way that Gurney got him in Train for Part 1. I like that Fade doesn't try to cheat with the poisonous version. Yeah, he does. He's weirdly honorable sometimes. He says, you fought well, Atreides. That's pretty good. That's a good line. Paul did say to the Baron, you dead like an animal. Right after, I don't think he said that. Did he say that? Did he say you die like an animal? Is that what he said? He said, grandmother? Watching Chani's heartbreak in real time during the sequence was gutting. The last shot of Chani is a motherfucker. I love that. Is a close on Chani crying, but there are no tears because Fremen don't shed tears. It's a waste of moisture. Your story of good guys winning is actually the worst thing that could have happened. Yeah, exactly. No, not a white savior movie at all. The ending, if where people realize, oh shit, this guy isn't Luke Skywalker. We've actually been following Michael Corleone. Oh, sure, that's a good comparison. Duke Leto wanted to become emperor through peaceful means and to rule justly. Paul became emperor to get revenge and bend the galaxy to his will. Yeah. Messiah takes place after the wild jihad has come to an end and it's a time for relative peace and plenty. They gotta show the war. They can't skip that. That would be a huge mistake. Okay, so I guess that's what it takes place. Is like it's after the war is done. They got to show it. If I was, I'm not Denis Villeneuve, but if I wanted to show just how far Paul has fallen, I'd be like, we got to show him leading this holy war and killing all these different houses and like billions of people dying. They got to show that. They got to show the aftermath. I think that's very important. That would be a huge mistake if they don't. A huge mistake, and that would, I think, undercut his arc considerably. Considering how much they've changed a Chani dynamic with Paul, I think we're going to get a pretty different Messiah movie. Yeah. So I hope so. Political backstabbing, you mean? I love the premise of an anti-Messiah story. This is what a good Darth Vader backstory would be. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of crazy how they kind of fucked it up. George Lucas fucked up with the prequels. Like, he had the template there. True. I think the major changes for Chani's character and how they improves upon the book. Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. I mean, at least what I've read of Dune. Chani in the book's barely a character. She's just there. Yeah, Herbert was not interested in writing action battles, so usually skipped all the other stuff in the book. Well, it's funny. Denis Villeneuve is the opposite. I do think it's important to show that war and to show just how destructive. I mean, why wouldn't you show the Holy War? I mean, that's the whole point. I think you have to. You have to show how horrifying Paul is. Yeah, you need to have that. Also, I love that there are people with interesting sci-fi alien names, and then there's Paul. I know, it's the thing. They do have some, like, regular names. Well, I guess Luke. You have, like, Luke Skywalker, yeah. Maybe they open with him wiping out their houses, and then it jumps forward some. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that would be, like, the first, like, opening of the film, first 15, 20 minutes or something like that. They need to show, like innocent people dying. They need to be like, oh, shit, Yeah. Need conflict, Chani, between emperors. Oh, I think so. They set that up. The way Florence Pugh and Zendaya were like staring at each other, and then Florence Pugh, Florence Pugh is like, oh shit, like she loves you clearly. That's gonna create some interesting conflicts between the two of them. I hope so. Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, through that I got a lot of just, intensity between them just staring at each other, but I want them to talk to one another. That needs to happen. If you don't, then we're going to have a situation where Paul's like, hey, Grandpa. I don't want that. So we'll see. You'll hear Luke, Ben, Leia, which sounds like a Mormon girl's name. Yeah, you're right. Mirror's either no time jump or small time jump, because in the book there's a time jump. That's how we get little Elia tearing the bear in a new one. Damn. In the movie, they condensed in a few months. Right. Brother, Wild Jihad is bananas. 98 billion people dead. Well, I don't want to know too much. I want to know no spoilers, of course, for the books. But yeah, chat. That's just my thoughts on Dune Part 2. Sandworm Boogaloo. Again, there's a lot of things I like. I think there's a lot of things to appreciate this movie, to love about this movie. And I am looking forward to the sequel. However, I did have some complaints. I highlighted them. And I do feel like this movie has some notable weaknesses. Again, when it comes to the writing, it comes to the characters. And so, I'm hoping some of that's improved upon. I don't know. I don't know if it will be, just because so many people are praising this movie for the visual spectacle that it is. And it is a visual spectacle. But I don't know. We'll see. I hope they wrap this. I hope they wrap this up, or at least Paul's story, strong. I know there's other books and there's other, you have his descendants, of course, that we follow later on in the series. So we'll find out. But yeah, I ended up really liking the movie. I have some complaints. I hope they address some of them in the future. But yeah, I'm going to post this to YouTube. So people in the comments, let me know. Did you love the film? Did you not like the movie? Did you have some issues like I did in regards to how some of the characters were treated, in regards to some of the villains? Let me know.